Welcome to TGIF.
Okay, I'm going to admit it.
Okay, here we go.
I am one of those who always seems to have something to take back to the store. Can you relate? I don't know if it's I buy the wrong thing or I just change my mind, but I am always going back to the store. And my kiddos used to tease me all the time and say, I think you really like taking things back. And that's why you buy what you buy, because you love to take back. I don't know if that's the case or I change my mind, but things happen. But that is what I do. And most of the time, I'm going to get something different. Sometimes I'm just going to get my money back. But when we go get something different, we're always looking for something that's just better. So that take back becomes
Takes us to the word of the day, which is exchange.
An exchange. I'm always trading things in for something different.
And that's what really, when we think about Jesus and this life that we live, it's exchanging the worldly possessions and the stuff of this world for Jesus and living into what Jesus. And Paul is a perfect example of that and how hard it was. I mean, I think sometimes we think Paul was just, he just fell into that and it just worked out great, but it was hard. He was blinded. So let's look at Philippians chapter 3, verse 7. I once thought these things were valuable, but now I consider them worthless because of what Christ has done. Focus on what Christ has done.
Yeah, that's
because
good.
Everything that Paul was doing, it was on his own strength. He really had that in his mind that he was doing everything for God. He was doing this and persecuting the Christians for the sake of preserving the Torah, God's word, and doing everything perfectly. Little did he know. So Paul had to be blinded. He had to be blinded in a moment to try to stop him in his tracks and allow God to do what God does best. Paul had one of the great treasures of the world, and that treasure is pride. Everywhere I go, from the least to the most, people always have some element of pride. Pride really is a driving force in the world, and it's packaged in the world differently in different circumstances. Sometimes it's power, and that's what Paul wanted, right? He got the authority to go out and persecute the Christians, so he had the power. He had the piece of paper that said he had the authority and the power to bring the Christians in, and in some cases kill them. So he also had this privileged, I'm a citizen. It's my citizenship that gives me this power and pride. He also had that sense of resentment. He resented Christians, resented them so bad. And I think when we start thinking about worldly possessions, I think we don't think that's one we possess, but yet it plays itself everywhere we resent somebody. And another one is anger. Is that a worldly possession? Yeah, but when we typically talk about worldly possessions, we're talking mostly about a car, a house, and things. These are the worldly possessions that are driving the world to the brink of disaster. And so what we're talking about today is what and how that exchange takes place of this kind of worldly possessions. We possess that pride, that power, resentment, anger, and how Paul had to be stopped in a moment so that God could do God's work within him to reveal his pride and break him down to understand the most valuable thing we could ever possess in this life leading to the next life is a relationship with Jesus. Easy? No, it's not.
Not at all, because I think we have that privileged attitude and we don't even realize that we just feel like we should be privileged. This is the way it should be. I deserve this. I work hard for this. I need these things. And sure, we need a car. We just had to get a new car, right? I mean, there are things that you need, but when they become what your focus is, and it's stressful. It was a stressful experience purchasing a new car. Number one, we didn't plan to or want to, and then making the decisions. Car prices are high right now and all of those things. And we wrapped ourselves around that so much when in the big scheme of things, it's just a car. Yeah, we got payments. That is not fun. But we get lost in, just like you said, these possessions and these things and what we have to do, and we miss the most important thing of all, and that is Jesus.
One of the things I appreciate about us going to Guatemala is we get to see third world problems and we get to see first world problems.
Huge difference.
And there are times when I'm looking, I'm going, oh, man, this is a first world problem. But here's the thing, when we get in third world country, pride's still there.
True.
They've got to deal with the same pride and privilege and citizenship, like who are these people coming from America, and what are they trying to do? And so I think that pride plays itself out across the board, and we've got to start understanding, wrap our minds around the idea of forgetting about ourselves. And Jesus said this, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up my cross daily, and follow me.
Wow.
Give up our way? What does that mean? Our prideful way? This is the way I'm going to do it, and oh yeah, I'm praying to God that God will do it my way. And I think that's part of the problem. God, do it my way. This is how I want my first world experience to be, rather than thinking about the greater damage it does by holding on to this worldly possession of pride. Even the anger. We hold on to anger a lot of anger. So what can we do? How do we give up our worldly ways, in order to really bear our love for a life lived in the desire to walk with God, to walk with Jesus every day?
And I think at the beginning, the whole little analogy I used of exchanging an item, maybe that's what we need to do. We need to, when we're talking to God and asking God in lifting this up, Lord, I realize I am way too connected to this thing.
I like that.
My hate, my anger, my car, my way of doing things, whatever it be. And if we just lift that up in prayer and say, Lord, I give it to you, but I want to make an exchange. I want the exchange to be for what you want to do in me. How can you work in me today? And then each time you get mad, or even you get in your car, or you go about your daily to-do list, whatever it is, that might just cue you as a reminder, wait a second, I exchanged that hate. I asked God, let me exchange that for your love. Like, give me your love in place of that. I give it to you because I am weak and I cannot deal with these things. Because I can't get rid of hatred or unforgiveness for others. I can't do that on my own. I have to exchange it.
And it's the things that get in the way that build that hate and anger too. So when we're going to God and we're asking for directions, I think people honestly go to God and asking for, in all sincerity, a direction, but there's these barriers that are there. There's this anger, this, all this stuff, emotional stuff. And so when we're asking God for direction, I think some of the times we have to say, okay, God, I need direction on this, but anger's getting in the way right now. I don't know where that anger is coming from, and I don't want to be that person. So we seek God's direction in confession. When we're confessing, there's other junk, God, getting in the way here. And so then when we ask God for advice, are we truly wanting God's advice, or are we truly wanting God to listen to what we want to do, or how we want to carry it out?
Because we're really good about praying exactly what we want, and that's okay. I mean, we can pray. We can ask God to perform miracles.
Amen.
And change situations, absolutely. And we do not quit praying. But I think we get so focused on our outcome being the outcome that we're missing what God was trying to do in and through us right in the middle of all of whatever we were dealing with.
And we tend to use weapons, the weapons of language and words.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Those are hard ones to say. God, I'm using words that I know don't flow from you. I want to use words of love. I want to exchange these weapons that I'm using on people. And that's another confession. I mean, you really got to, I've gone through that journey saying, God, I don't want to use those words anymore. I don't want to use that language. I want to use your language and your love. And
I think about that just with the kiddos. I mean, those are always my favorite people. I love y'all, but it's the kids that I love the most. And I just think about the words that flow right off their tongue because they hear it all the time. The word, I don't even like saying, because we don't say the stupid and idiot and retarded and just those things. Can you imagine if we could just come alongside these kiddos and help them learn that concept of exchange that word. Ask God to exchange that word for something to remind you when you're ready to just say those things because you hear it. Wait a second, I exchanged that to let God's love flow from me in that situation. Perfect? No, we're sinful people. But that whole idea, like, I'm on it. I think I'm going to live this. Yeah. Exchanging things.
I like it.
So there you go. There.
Whole new exchange platform for us now.
Exactly.
Right?
Like this really just spoke to me. It really did.
Got it work.
So, question?
Question.
Do you have an overdue exchange? Something that you need to, we're good at on Sundays, you preach it all the time, surrender, surrender your will, your ways, all this stuff, your unforgiveness, surrender it. And that's good. That's biblical to surrender it to the foot of the cross. But how about asking for an exchange to help you? And when you get rid of that, what are you filling it with? Yeah, it's going to be a great week, and we'll see you next time on TGIF. Bye.
Bye.